So if you're stuck below 1400 in chess and you have already tried studying openings, grinding puzzles, and watching courses, and your rating hasn't moved, this video is for you. I played 150 documented games from 1200 all the way to 2000, and I kept data on every single one. And what I discover about 1200 to 1400 range contradicts almost everything the chess content industry is telling you right now. So in this video, I'm going to show you what actually gets you to 1400 with the data to back it up. This is chapter 1 of a 4-part series called The Road to 2000. Each chapter analyzes one rating range: 1200 to 1400, 14 to 1600, 16 to 18, 18 to 2000. And what actually separates one from the next. Every range has its own bottleneck. Every range needs a different fix. And most coaches are giving you generic advice that doesn't match where you actually are. If you're below 1200, stay with me. You will still understand a lot of things that matter. If you're above 1400, the next chapter is for you and it's coming soon. The first thing I discover playing with people from 1200 to 1400 range is this. These players are not losing because they lack knowledge. In fact, they know stuff. They're losing because how they think. And coaches will tell you that if you're stuck, you need more theory. You need more openings, you need more puzzles. But I look at the actual games, and the real problem is something completely different. This is something I call game sense. So game sense is the ability to understand what's happening on the board, predict what's coming next, and respond correctly. Game sense is know what's happening, know what's coming, know what to do. That's it. That's game sense. And here's the thing you have to understand. Game sense is not knowledge. You can read every chess book, every reading, and still have zero game sense. Because chess is not about accumulating knowledge, it's about understanding situations. So most players are studying the wrong thing. They are memorizing moves when they should be learning to read the game in real time. That's why you know what to do in theory, but not during the game. Game sense is the missing link between what you study and what actually shows up in your play. Strong players don't just know more, they see the game differently. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how to start seeing things differently so you can finally cross 1400. So here's how 1200 to 1400 players think during a game. So for example, this is a game I played against a 1400 player and I used the King's Gambit. So here my opponent played f6. Clearly he doesn't know the theory. I play bishop c4, occupying this diagonal. He played knight c6 and I play knight f3. And clearly this bishop bothers my opponent. My opponent doesn't like my bishop on c4. So this is how he processed the information. He saw, oh, this bishop might be a problem for me in the future. Let's eliminate it with knight a5. This is a move he didn't verify. The problem of a move like this is that you are neglecting your own development. So from here, I just captured his knight. I took the pawn. And here I could take another pawn on e5, but first I decided to castle. Because just because I have a pawn, it doesn't mean I have to attack. Just because I can take the pawn doesn't mean I have to take it. And in this type of positions, game sense is pretty useful because this is not a position I know. This is the first time I encountered this position in the King's Gambit, but I know what's going on. I'm ahead in development. But also I know if I take pawn, what's going to happen is that he's going to check my king and unnecessarily I'm going to get in trouble. So what should I do? I simply need to castle. That's game sense. My opponent played d6 and I hit the center with d4. That move allows me to attack the pawn on e5 and develop my bishop. He played knight c6, and notice how he's not actually doing something with his position. He's just moving the knight. Then I play d5, closing the position, knight e7, and knight to g5, and now I'm threatening things on f7. He played knight g6, and I brought the queen on h5. I can now attack him because my opponent has almost zero development. And after bishop e7, queen h7, now I'm gaining a pawn. And after this, queen takes g6, and now I checkmated the king and I won my game. In 16 moves, I beat a 1391 rated player. So here's how a 1200 to 1400 player thinks during the game. Something bothers me. I need to fix it now. Or maybe the opposite, the other way. This attack looks promising. Let's attack. And that's it. That type of thinking is reactive. It's superficial. It's like something feels uncomfortable, so they react. Something looks good, so they grab it. There is no evaluation layer, no pause, no reading of the situation. Now, compare that to how I thought. Here, for instance, I could take the pawn on e5, but I knew and I tried to anticipate his next move. Queen h4 is a strong reply. I don't need to take the pawn right away. I simply can castle and then I have an advantage. And after this, all I need to do is to bring more pieces into the game, right? I know I'm better, but I don't have a clear way of converting the game. So all I need to do is to keep improving my position. And then the moves I just find. It's now a matter of attacking my opponent. I clearly better. So the way how a 1400 processes the information is completely different from a 2000 player. The 2000 player is reading the situation before responding. The 1300 is just responding. That difference is worth hundreds of rating points. This position is from a King's Gambit opening against another 1300 plus player. And here my opponent didn't like the pressure he was receiving on f4. So instead of just simply developing his pieces or maybe playing, I don't know, d6 to develop the bishop or d5 attacking the center, he saw that I was ready to capture the pawn and he decided to play knight h5. Yep, it's true that knight h5 allows you to keep the pawn, but at the same time you're neglecting your development. So yeah, he spends one important tempo to protect that pawn. But by the time he's done, his pieces are uncoordinated. The king is exposed, and he's lost the game. Here I simply castle, I play d5 attacking the knight, then I brought the knight on d4, I'm now attacking his knight, I'm attacking the pawn on f4, he played g6, like he really want to keep that pawn. I play queen f3, and all I'm doing right now is to improve my position a bit more, you know? He played pawn to d6, I capture the pawn, I capture the pawn, he capture back, I capture, here I recover the pawn, and here I actually have a better position. His knight is out of the game, and a couple of moves later, I end up winning the game, you know, with a mate on g7, thanks to the move g6 he made in the beginning. So he wasn't losing material when he made the decision. The problem is he was reacting to discomfort. He felt pressure on f4 and he had to solve it right away. No pause, no reading, no game sense. And I'm pretty sure a 1600 in the same position would have said, who cares about that pawn? My development matters more, and he would have moved on. So that's what no game sense costs you. And it's the single biggest thing separating you from 1400. Now, to reach 1400, game sense alone won't get you there. There's a second layer, and this one is tactical, but not in the way you think. Now, everyone tells you, hey, do more puzzles, grind tactics every day. The problem is, if you don't know what you're scanning for, you can do 10,000 puzzles and nothing transferred to your games. At 2000, I'm not solving puzzles in my games, I'm scanning. Every move, my eyes looking for two specific things. And these two things are what 1300 player completely misses. And these two things are what the 1200 player that is stuck completely misses. The first thing is alignments. Whenever two pieces are on the same line, the same file, the same rank, same diagonal, there's potential for a pin, a skewer, a discover attack. A 2000 player sees every alignment on the board automatically, every single move. A 1300 player doesn't even look. For example, this is a position I was playing when I was 1200 against another guy who is also 1200. And in this position, my opponent plays queen e4. The first alignment I see is the queen on the same line as my king. This is something we call a pin, you know? Now, just because my opponent doesn't have any direct way of getting my rook, doesn't mean I'm gonna spend the next 5 moves with my king on h7. Something that I did is I immediately saw the alignment and I played king g7. To me, it made a lot of sense. I know that this move doesn't accomplish any type of attack, but it is what it is. It's okay. Sometimes it's just better to anticipate to these things. When there's an alignment like this, here my opponent playing knight f3, he messed it up because after this and this, his castle is completely damaged. And then I brought my rook to the f file, right? Right now, I'm creating a serious pressure on the f3 pawn. And here my opponent, instead of defending it, he played pawn to b4, attacking the bishop. Here, this move is a move he miscalculated. Maybe he was expecting bishop b6 and then something like king here, but he overlooked the move bishop d4, you know? Attacking the rook on a1. He has to move the rook, and then I took the rook on f3. And possibility for 10 seconds and try to find another important alignment. If you find the alignment, you are going to see that the next move pretty quickly. The most important alignment here for black is this bishop aligned to the king on g1. The bishop aligned to the king. That means the f2 pawn is completely pinned and is useless. My opponent played pawn to a4 because he believed his position was safe. And just like that, after rook takes g3, I'm just gaining a bishop and there's nothing he can do. All right. I saw this very, very quickly because I have trained the alignment, what I call the alignment bishop. And tactically speaking, I think like many people who are stuck below 1400, they don't see stuff like this, or if they see it, it takes them a lot to see stuff like this. This is something that you should see this immediately. So alignment vision, I would say it's a very, very important skill in chess that you should work. And yeah, I won the game like 5 moves later. So this isn't the puzzle, this is pattern recognition happening in real time. You have to train your eye to look at lines between pieces, not just at pieces. The second thing is trapped pieces. A piece that has no good squares. A piece that's boxed in by its own pawns or by the opponent. Most players never check whether a piece, their own or their opponent's, can actually move safely. So for example, let's take a look at this position. A couple of moves before, this is a game I was playing when I was 1200 against an 1100 player, right? I can take the pawn on e4, but my queen is under attack. So I decided to capture the knight first. He captured with a pawn, and then I capture on e4. So at a superficial level, it looks like I just gain a pawn, but this move comes with a price. Here, if you notice, my bishop is not doing well. It can only go to b6 and c5. So a move that I really find very interesting is the move pawn to b4. And after bishop b6, a5. And that's what I call a trapped piece. However, I think that after b4, I can play queen to c2 as an in-between move. And the game here is going to get very complex because there will be some compensation for the piece I'm about to give. Yeah, I'm attacking the bishop. Most likely he's going to defend that bishop somehow. And then at the end of all this forced sequence, I think I'm just going to lose a bishop. But I'm going to lose a bishop for at least 3 pawns. So there could be a compensation for it. However, my opponent, who is 1100, notice that I played this game when I was 1200. He never saw this idea. So here he played pawn to c4. I played queen to c2. And then I simply took the pawn on c4. And now notice that pawn to b4 doesn't work anymore. I can simply take the pawn. And in reality, he just gave up a bunch of pawns. So when he played knight d5, he did this move, not being sure about the follow-up. It's like he played knight d5 and he actually didn't have a plan for it. And that's another problem that I see at this range, is that people are a bit careless about pawns. Man, if you lose a pawn, most likely you're going to lose the game, you know? So I took another pawn, and at the end, I just accumulated a bunch of pawns, and my opponent wasn't able to get some compensation out of it. And then game, I won. So if you want to become a 1400 player, you have to build the habit of asking every single move, is any piece of this board trapped, mine or his? That question alone wins games in this range. And I have many examples, but I don't want to make this video too much. So you get the idea. Okay, so game sense, alignments, trap pieces, that's the diagnosis, Now let me give you the prescription. 3 concrete things you can start doing this week to break out of the 1200 to 1400 range. Number 1, manage your impulse. When something bothers you on the board, don't react immediately. Take a step back and evaluate. Is this actually a problem, or am I just feeling uncomfortable? Your opponent attacks a pawn. Okay, but is that pawn worth more than your development? Is it worth more than your king safety? Most of the time, no. A 1300, a 1200 player that is stuck drops everything to defend the pawn. However, a 1600 sees the threat, calculates it. However, a 2000 player sees the threat, calculates it, and often just lets the pawn go because keeping his plan is worth more. So learn how to manage the impulse. Pause before you react. That pause is where game sense lives. Number 2, discipline before attacking. Before you launch any attack, ask yourself one question. Is my position ready? If your pieces aren't developed, if your king isn't safe, if you don't have coordination, don't attack with an unprepared position. Second, train your alignment vision and trap piece. Every single move you make, your eye should be doing one thing: scanning for pieces that share a line. Same file, same rank, same diagonal. Because every alignment on the board is a potential plan, a potential skewer, a potential discovery attack. This is what 2000 players do automatically. They're not calculating harder than you. They're just looking at different things. You're looking at pieces, they are looking at lines between pieces. This is something I really like to do on leeches to train my alignment vision, and something that I teach my students in order to improve their alignment vision. Go to leeches and you can start, for example, with discovery attack, just easiest level, and start drawing this type of alignments. So for example here, instead of thinking about the move, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the alignments here. So for example, something that I see here is like in this position, before I think about the move, I'm going to see the alignments. This bishop is aligned to this bishop, and also this knight is aligned to this knight. This rook is touching this rook. Okay, so if I remove my knight, then the bishops are looking at each other. So probably I could take, and if he takes, I take his bishop and I gain a piece. Now, if I take, what happens if he takes my bishop instead? In that case, I can take his rook, he takes back, and I think I have knight d3 as a fork. Yeah, at this level, some exercises require some calculation, but yeah, that should be it. So for example, this exercise is black to move. In this position, before I even think about my next move, I'm going to scan all the alignments. So for example, this queen is aligned to this queen, right? That means if I take this, if I remove this bishop from the way, I'm going to take the queen. Now, how can I move my bishop and gain a tempo at the same time? And then I take the queen. You know, simple exercises like that. These are the reason why I like to solve puzzles on leeches, is because leeches shows you real situations, right? From real games. And yeah, basically stuff like this. Of course, for some people, this exercise, it's very easy, but this type of stuff happens way too much at the 1400 level. In fact, this happened between an 1800 player and a 2000 player. So if this happened at that level, what does that tell you at a 1400 level, you know? Simple things like this, but it's important that you train your alignment vision. For example, in this other position, the knight goes to e4, my queen is aligned to this knight, the rook is attacking here. That means if I retreat my knight or I move my knight somewhere else, the queen is going to attack. In this case, I can play knight e5 attacking the rook. He moves the rook, then I can take the knight and I win a piece. Again, knight e5, I attack the rook, he moves the rook, then I take the knight and I win a piece. This happened at an 1800 level. You know, alignment vision means using the puzzles you use to work, but with this different approach. You know, before you even think about the move, you draw these arrows in your head first, and I promise you, if you do the right work, the move will reveal itself. And the last thing is, you should have a repertoire, an opening repertoire that creates this is something that nobody's teaching correctly. So to get to 1400, you don't need to know 20 opening moves, okay? You don't need a repertoire, a very extended repertoire. You need a repertoire that puts your opponent in positions where he doesn't know what to do. This is the biggest insight from my entire 150 game experiment. I didn't win because I had superior theoretical knowledge. I won because I played openings my opponents had never studied properly. They were forced to guess move after move while I had clear plans. With white, I played the King's Gambit. So to summarize, if you're stuck below 1400, here's what's actually going on and here's what to do about it. Work on game sense, stop reacting, and start reading the situation. Train your alignment vision and trap vision, and also start working on a better opening repertoire that puts your opponent into an uncomfortable position where he is most likely to make a blunder. In chapter 2 of this series, I'm breaking down the 1400 to 1600 range, and it's going to be very interesting to show you my conclusions in my experiment. And if you like this video, subscribe for sure. But if you go to the link below, premiumchesscoaching.com, you'll be able to see. If you want to go deeper on any of this, I put everything in one place. It's called the Premium Chess Coaching Vault. Inside the vault, you'll find free mastery classes where I break down the full framework, how I actually coach adult analytical players to reach 2000. I'm going to teach you why you blunder and how to overcome blunders. Inside the vault, you'll find free mastery classes where I break down the full framework and how I actually coach adult players to reach 2000. If you want to understand how I help my students finally make their chess match their intelligence, the vault is where you see it. It's all free. If this video helped you, subscribe. The next chapters in this series are coming, and each one is built specifically for the next rating range. I'll see you in chapter 2.